If it's 11 a.m. Eastern Time, it's the Hour of Empower, and it's our live stream. Chat is wide open, so feel free to use chat. And with that said, open for comments. Jeffrey should be coming soon. So let me, I'd love to get your thoughts and questions on the word people, if you can. And in the meantime, just kind of looking forward to hearing what everybody has to say about it. I want to take this opportunity also to thank everybody for supporting the show as much as you have and making it, everything that is supposed to be. Let me get back to Jeffrey real quick. Okay. Sorry about that little interruption. Always technical situations with live streams. So yeah, let me know if you're out in the audience, and be happy to field some questions while Jeffrey reallocates his restream to the show. So with that, I just want to kind of bring you up to date. I'm working on the collaboration group, which is starting to take shape, and we'll actually have its first meeting next week, Zoom meeting. So if you're interested, feel free to go to Don Cohen. Okay, I don't know. It's okay. Christine's here. Thank you, Christine, for being here. People, personalities, and conflicting agendas are part of nearly every job role I've ever had. I'm still trying to master navigating these. I think that that's so fundamental to success today is, really being able to adapt and be a people person. It's said that basically the person who can help solve the biggest people problems actually do the best and make the most money. So personalities, conflicting agendas are part of nearly every job role I've ever had. I'm still trying to master navigating these things. And I think that's life, and that's life in business, is how do you adjust? How do you adapt? And, where do you go from there? If there's any other thoughts or comments while I'm waiting for Jeffrey to come online, feel free. In the meantime, I want to applaud Christine. She's been such a wonderful support for the show, and in the early days really helped shape it. So, my thanks goes out to Christine. And, again, want to celebrate the people out there who have done so much. It looks like Jeffrey may be having some challenges getting on. So actually, if there's anybody in the audience who wants to show up on the show today, we can make it open mic. So either raise your hand or share in comments. Oh, here's Jeffrey. Maybe we'll skip that. Hi, Jeffrey. I know it took a little while to get to where we're going, but it looked like StreamYard wasn't going to be as effective today as it usually is. So with that said, I want to welcome you. So grateful for you to be here today. And just kind of sharing a little bit about people. And that's our topic. Christine had a wonderful comment. Christine's climbing the corporate ladder, as well as really doing some fabulous things for advancing her education and also taking care of her family. So thank you, Christine. Maria's here. Thank you so much for being here, Maria. So Jeffrey, welcome. So happy to be here. So happy to have you here. Still getting over the frazzleness of this not working, that not working, and then performing in front of everybody while I'm doing that. So it is, it's an exercise for sure. So Jeff, why don't you bring us up to date since last week? We had a phenomenal show with Kumar and Amit last week, and I had so much positive feedback from it. And I know you're a big fan of those two gentlemen.
Yeah.
So where are we since last week? And what's your initial thoughts on People?
Wow. Last week was phenomenal. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Don, to have them on the show. Since then, this Tuesday, they dropped into Growing Your Business with People, our podcast. And so folks get a chance, and we're about to do an explainer video that shows folks kind of a background on Amit and Kumar, of like the issues, the autism, and the challenges that Amit's had as a result of it. It was wonderful. But I actually was thinking about the tech issues for just a second, and just how it relates back to the people, right? Like, you can teach people tech, and sometimes you can teach people how to speak, and to present. But there is no way to prepare somebody to basically be a juggling ventriloquist, right? Right? You're throwing the dolls up in the air, and you're still having to cast your voice into them as they're falling back down to you, right? And that's what you just had to do, Don. And you had to switch over from, one platform to another, keeping your audience with me, figuring out how to get a hold of Jeff Lackey, who's obviously all in the wrong places, right? Listen, if I know where I'm at, I'm good, let alone if you know where I'm at. So I appreciate that. So phenomenal. Thank you so much, Don. And thank you for your patience. So People, the reason I was thinking about People is they really are the heart of, they're the heart of our lives, that we are people. I love how Amit and Kumar talk about, like, if you're a leader, you are a people, right? Mm-hmm. So you're part of the equation. So I love the fact that, like, don't think of yourself as separate. Like, you're not if you're a leader, you're a robot. You're not a robot. You're a people too. Like, you have to invest in yourself. You have to think about stuff. You have to also think about the fact that, as you consider people, like, hey, they're experiencing a whole lot of life. You were just experiencing a whole lot of life there a minute ago, Don, right? You had all sorts of things going on. Who else knows? Like, who knows what happened to you before today started? Like, you might have had some of the best news of your life, some of the worst news of your life. You could have had anything happen to you, and we would have no idea, right? You're still showing up, right? We don't know the story behind the folks that we're working with. Like, hey, when that person cut you off in traffic that day, you don't know their story. Like, hey, are they rushing their kid to the emergency room? Did they just hear about something super tragic in their life that they've lost focus and it was by accident? Are they just angry at the world right now because maybe they just lost their job and they're just PO'd? Maybe they're just selfish. Hey, let's be honest. There are selfish people in the world. I bet you one or two of you have been. I bet you I've been selfish a few times in my life if I'm really thinking hard about it, right? And so, like, hey, sometimes we act selfish even if we aren't, maybe we're not like that all the time, but maybe we are that in the moment. And sometimes we just need somebody to give us a little grace. As I think about People, I think about the fact that we give, I've been reading the book Crucial Conversations. And one of the things that we often do is that we have a lot of stories that we tell ourselves, right? And the stories often, kind of either, we either portray ourselves as victims, right? Oh, like, this has all happened to me. Or the other person is they're a terrible person. They're just, they're evil. They're bad. They're mean. Like, listen, we kind of got to get out of this whole storytelling where we're painting people and painting pictures. And if we're going to deal with people, we got to actually deal with the information and the evidence in front of us and talk about, hey, what are we seeing? What are we actually hearing? What were the words being said? Not necessarily what are the stories that we're trying to play in our mind. And then, like, really talk about, like, hey, what do we want out of this interaction? What do we care about? Like, are we trying to win, or are we trying to actually create do something together and collaborate. And it's a phenomenal book. I can't believe I spent so long avoiding reading that book. I really regret it now. I was telling my daughter, I told Aubrey, I said, I was told over a decade ago to read the book, and I didn't. And I've been surrounded by people who've been reading it. And I said, I wish I'd just listened to him. I would have avoided a lot of hard life lessons that I had to learn the hard way had I just spent the time, 5 hours of listening to it. So if you want a good book, Crucial Conversations, 3rd edition, phenomenal piece of reading for the folks. But and also Bob Burg, The Go-Giver, which I do have handy. I know he is a guest on your show. I don't give up on that. That's on my top 5 list of favorite books of all time. So that's just a couple of my thoughts as I think about people, Don.
Well, that's great. I think it really covers a lot of ground and speaks to the core of it. And when you really look at people, your look is through your eyes. That's who those people are.
Yes.
And through different eyes, they're different people. And to themselves, they're different people. And you're different people. So what lens are you using? Are you looking for defects? Are you looking for things that need fixing? Or are you looking for outstanding qualities, attributes, values? And I think because people are so short term, everything is stimulus response. Well, I did something, I didn't get it back yet. Well, what does that mean? They don't care. They're selfish. They're whatever. And you just create this whole mayonnaise of stuff, that you're smearing all over everybody around you to fit your view of the world, the social setting, the business situation. And, if you're better at forgiveness and tolerance and patience, people can come around. Someone just walked in the door, maybe they're full of snow. Well, they just came out of a winter day. Well, give them a couple minutes. They'll look like everybody else. They'll feel like everybody else, but they need a few minutes to wipe the snow off, get the coat off, have a cup of coffee or tea. And what reminds me of what Jeff said earlier about this experiment of live streaming is how fast did I learn what I needed to learn in the shortest amount of time? What I learned was, well, first of all, I patted myself on the back for building redundancy, to paying for 2 platforms. And, when it's $19 and $25 together for $44, I'm not minimizing any dollars. But when you need it, when something has to happen, you want to build that insurance into it. So I was glad I had that. The other thing is, I was glad everybody I'm working, talking with, and being with today, I've been with probably 100 times, right? We're just friends. So when you're flustered in front of friends or family, and you're juggling maybe the refrigerator dishes or something else is falling out of the cabinet and you're trying to catch it, that's you in an element. And it would have been harder if I had one show every 2 months and had somebody like Bob Burg on for that one show, and boom. And, on top of it, I was there 7 minutes early, sitting there waiting. And I thought at that point, everything is fine. And it wasn't. And, at the same time, you don't have time to figure out what isn't fine. You figure that out later. But, hey, when this happens, you do this. When that happens, you do that. And that shows resourcefulness. And, I think, again, when I had my employees and we're talking about people, and people are usually in 2 categories, business or personal, professional, if you want to call it that, is that what was so important was understanding. Was like, you may not agree, but you do understand, or you are aware, right? I mean, or aren't you? And hey, that's your first gimme, right? You didn't know any better. No one told you, and you just figured, hey, okay. But, you know, at the same time, when you look at people, you really look at opportunity. You know, when I saw everybody, I saw talent, I saw resources. It's like if a gold mining company finds a plot of land and they know by samples, hey, there's a lot of wealth in here. Everybody has that. How much do you want to invest in them to see that manifest through them with your support? And again, that's some redundancy. When instead of having a system, person has a person. I mean, Ahmet and
Kumar.
Kumar kind of showed that. Individually, they're not as strong as collectively. I mean, they're a team, right? They're a partnership. And one can then focus on what they do best while the other one is focusing on, but together it makes for an enlightening, exhilarating experience because you're really wowed. And I think that's what you want to be, is the wow factor in somebody's life, and not driving up in a Rolls and having minks and diamonds flying all over, you know. But hey, I got strength. I can lift somebody up for a while. I can help you out. Now, what do you want to do in order for me to do that? And it doesn't have to be back to me. It could be you'll study twice as much, and that'll pay the admission, or you'll exercise more, you know. And I think if everybody invests at the same time in the same thing, you ever see a stock that you could buy today or next year at the same price? Right? I mean, you wouldn't pay anything today. You just wait and see if it went down. In the meantime, you'd save that money. Christine has a strong experience from yesterday. Oh man, yesterday was like that for me. I was at the emergency room with my daughter yesterday during a busy work day. From there, the day continued to go off the rails. I ended up taking the rest of the day off because too many things out of my control. And, you know, that's a credit to you, Christine, because knowing when to leave, right, is so essential, because people don't want to see you in situations when you're not there really, when you're frustrated, when you're angry. If you're just, you know, you buy in time to get through the day. And at the same time, if you got a daughter having a challenge, you don't be sitting at work.
Nope.
Right? I mean, what could you be doing for the next 2 hours that would be more important, and especially to your daughter?
Yes.
Right? It's like, oh, you took off work. Well, sure, you're the most important thing in my life right now. And people need to hear that. And we're talking about people, same to employees.
Yeah.
How many times do you just say, I don't have to do this, but I feel I need to do this? Go up to somebody and say, you don't know how important you are to me.
Yes.
Or how essential you are to this organization and what you do beyond what you do. And I think that's so, and if it's true and they know it's true, how many times, how many people can you count in your life who have ever come up to you like that? Not that many. So anytime you do it is going to mean something to that other person who is maybe even younger, more inexperienced. It could have been the first time, and all of a sudden someone says, this can happen. This does happen. He or she just showed how it works, and that duplicates through others. So if we really want to change the world for the better, we need to first work on ourselves. And then the person right next to us who we're in contact with. It could be the person on the bus. It could be the person in the park. Could be anybody, the librarian, who knows? How do you plant seeds of goodness? Right? So what's your thoughts, Jeff?
Yeah, it's a perfect idea. One of the things, I have a daily meeting, prayer time, 12 to 12:30 every day, with whoever wants, all over the world. We've got people from Uganda, Pakistan, Michigan. I mean, you know, that state up north. I'm a Ohio State Buckeye, by the way. You know, so you know, we have people from all parts of the world. You know, and one of the things we talked about not too long ago is the importance of saying, how can I pray for you? You know, well, can I pray for you? How can I pray for you? And can I pray with you right now? Right. And it doesn't have to be anything like some fabulous, like wonderful prayer. It's just like, hey, this person's hurting. or this person has a need, or this person has a big worry, and they just like to have somebody come along, even for like 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, and just say, "Hey, how can I pray for you?" And I'll tell you, people are usually shocked when I ask that, or somebody asks that. They're like, What did you say?" And I say, "I'll say it again." They're like, "I've never had anybody ask me." And what a shame. What a shame that nobody's ever asked them. But you know what? You can always be the first. The title of the book is Crucial Conversations. It's phenomenal. What I'm doing is actually, I've finished it, but I'm going through again. I'm listening to it and reading it simultaneously, so that I can get it through two different channels, audio as well as audible, visual. So that I'm picking it up two different ways, so that I'm accelerating, because I'm powering through it, because I had a reason to get through it in a short period of time, instead of I usually try to spread things out. Yeah, I have a confession to make. I'm like the world's slowest reader. Like, I can read through like emails and texts like that, but when it comes to books, I just take my time on them, and powering through isn't something I normally do, but this is helping me do it. But Crucial Conversations is the name of it. You'll find it very impactful for your work, for your family, for your personal, for your people life.
Okay, well, that brings so much to mind, because everybody needs something. Everybody wants something, and a lot of people really do deserve something. There's a difference between needing, wanting, and deserving. And who is aware of your needs? Who really cares about your needs? So, I mean, awareness is important. Caring kind of builds on that. And then what are you doing to make it easy for people to help you? Right? If you were stuck in a ditch, the sooner the tow truck showed up, the happier you'd be.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be like, "Hey, we'll just hang out, eat a sandwich. When it happens, it happens." So I think there's always balance. And when you're dealing with people, balance is critical. Some people don't need a big shove. They just need a little bit of direction, and an adjustment. I mean, if you look at chiropractors, right? If you take that to people, hey, how do we adjust your mood a little bit today?
Yes.
Right? How do we get you a little bit happier, healthier? How can we do that? Let's think on it, because actions don't always take the thought that thoughts take. Because most of the time you take it for granted. I'm just going to walk over there, get a cup of coffee, and come back. Well, yeah, but something had to get you there and take you back. Something had to pour that coffee, right? And why don't pay? And I think that's the savoring aspect of people and yourself.
Yeah.
Well, I could gulp down this coffee and not even know it existed, or I could sip it. I could think about the beans that are made this up. I could think about the people who picked it. There's so much story, the simple things. And when you finally focus, and I like the idea of reading slower, it's really a reflection of infusing oneself in it. Speed reading is like, yeah, just take your finger and a page is gone, a page is gone. But, it's like squeezing out all the juice and just compressing it to a very edible, easy, chewable type of thing. And do you want to live life to its fullest? Do you want to appreciate every blessing and bounty that you're actually presented with? I mean, build a sky, change a cloud. I mean, you look at an insect. How did that ever happen? I mean, so there's wonderment in people. And if you can be wondering about people, for people, that's where you get community. That's where you get teams, because they can't get that anywhere else. Because if no one cares about you, you stop caring about yourself more and more.
That's a good point. You say to talk about wondering, and there's Sen Delaney is a training program that really talks about it's human interactions, and one of the things they say is like coming from curious, right? Begin from a place of curiosity, of wondering. Like, don't put your assumptions aside for a moment, right? Deal with the facts, and then just say, I wonder, I'm curious what this actually can mean, and be willing to ask the person, and a little bit about, hey, you know, you said this, and it's funny, I interpreted it as this. Am I right? Like, or hey, I assume that you had good intentions. I'm just having trouble figuring out what they were. Right.
Mhm.
And you can actually kind of laugh it off a little. Like I know you had a good intention. I can't figure out what they were. Help me out. Like, and they'll be like, yeah, well, actually, from that perspective, now I can see why you wonder what my good intentions were. I get it. Okay, let's have a conversation. And all of a sudden, like, you're in a different place with the person. Like, you're like we're gonna laugh it off a little bit, from a place of I love using humor. Humor, takes away. Like, if you use it right, it can take away the bitterness of a conversation, and it can allow you to get to actually very difficult conversations. And I had a conversation where somebody's little vein was like popping, like literally, boom, 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 boom. That's how angry they were with me, and believe you me, that's not a pleasant place to be. So I looked at the person. I said, "The things you're saying were nice, but the vein on the top of your forehead is speaking louder than words."
Mhm.
And they looked at me like, and then they laughed, and then we were like, "Okay, let's just tell me what you're really feeling, because obviously your vein is telling me that you're pissed off, and I need to hear what you're pissed off about." And she
Well,
says, "Hell yeah, I am!" And boom. And I said, "Thank you. That's a gift. I needed to hear that." Yeah.
well, to that point,
Mhm.
sometimes you got to be a friend to somebody who doesn't even know you're a friend yet.
All right.
And a lot of times people will say something and they should have filtered it, edited it, but they didn't mean anything by it. And you just edited for them. Okay, I'll just
Right.
cut that last piece out and I'll just retain that main piece that was presented. And now I just did you a favor without even bringing it up, because you're not going to fix or change people immediately, and a lot of people don't know you, so anything you say is going to be interpreted maybe without the right context. But how
Mhm.
many times do you hear this whole long drawn out story and say, I know what you just said. You just said this, right? Repeat it back to them without the everything that you edited out. This is what you're here for. This is what you're hoping for. Okay, we can work with that.
Mhm.
Versus one, everything is either a respect or a disrespect in some way.
Yes.
So when you say, I'm just going to take the best of what you just shared
Mhm.
and I'm going to work with that. The other stuff, you don't even have to tell people.
Mhm.
I mean, it's almost like when you donated anonymously to charity and the next day you put an ad in the paper about it, right? I mean, and it's the same thing. If you're going to help somebody, just help them. Don't expect something, because you know what? You're wasting your time and their time on something that could already have been taken care of.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Nike when they came up with "Let's do it" or
Mhm.
"Just do it." Just do it. I mean, any question anybody gives you, you could say, just do it already, right? You don't have to think anymore. I've heard it 20 times, no disrespect, but just go out and do it today, right now. Stop what you're doing with me. Go out and do it right now.
Mhm.
I mean, that's kind of funny in its own way. But, I think the key is being the better person without trying to be the better person.
Mhm. Yes.
Somebody says, well, they gave me a chocolate cake with 3 layers. It's going to be 5 layers the next time they get it back. I'm going to give them
Mhm.
more. But you're
Yeah.
not giving them more for them. You're giving them more to show who you are and who you can contribute. And that's where people want to know authenticity, sincerity. And when people are doing things special for you over time. When someone's looking out for you. When
Mhm.
someone takes some special care, and you don't have to talk about it. That song by Alison Krauss, you say so much when you say nothing at all,
Mhm.
and I think there's that whole thing to it. Here's Christine.
Mhm.
I agree. It's possible for even the worst relationships to evolve. And I've even become allies with people I didn't think I liked, or vice versa. And Beverly comes back with, exactly, Down. That's why I pivoted into coaching. Coaching provides adjustment. Not everyone needs the heavy lifting and therapy. Those little tweaks change your thinking, and it changes your thinking too. So it's kind of a symbiotic relationship when you're helping somebody, is they're helping you help them and helping you in return. Most people are not receptive to wonderment from someone else, and you're right. And the default position is usually the minority position. Nice usually doesn't weigh out over unnice, right? There's more angry, frustrated, but that's the point. There's the opportunity. These people took themselves out of the game unknowingly.
Right.
I mean, if you're playing, that's why I tell everybody, don't ever take anybody's advice who hasn't done or isn't doing what you're doing. If you're out on the track running and you got people say you're slow, when's the last time they got on the track? And slow to what? Slow to who? And again, that's taking someone's values and judgment and taking it and internalizing it, and then creating the thing you didn't want. They say if you want to become something, act as if you are, right? Start
That's
acting.
right.
You want to be a skinny person, start walking around with a skinny person, eat exactly what they eat every day, exercise like they do, and you'll have no choice but to be just like they are. And it's possible, right? Everybody came to this world with nothing, right? From there, it's only up. Go ahead, Jeff.
It's interesting. If you don't mind, put Maria Simonetti, but to play devil advocate comment. That's a good one. I want to comment on that. So I love this comment. Everybody wants to be nice. Let's take what nice means, right? There's a couple ways you could be nice. You could be nice, air quotes, be nice by rolling over. Yeah. They're saying something I don't agree with, but I'm going to roll over to their opinion. That doesn't feel really authentic. Or I could be nice by just not saying anything, keeping everything to myself, and I'm just going to be nice. That doesn't feel very authentic either. I think there's a third option, and actually, again, I don't make any money off of Crucial Conversations or a Bogberg's The Good Giver. So, just to be clear, I'm not making anything. This is 100% free to you. But one of the things that's really to say is like, what are we trying to get out of a conversation, and how are we aligning what we're trying to get with the other person? And actually having a conversation and figuring out how to create alignment is really important, so that you don't have to be either rolling over and agreeing with something that you might not agree with, or just being silent, because neither one of those are actually, even though they say that they're nice, I don't like nice. I'm not a fan of nice, because nice implies that I'm not actually being authentic with you, and that doesn't imply a real relationship, right? Real relationships. I mean, think about your own family. Those are the ones who are real relationships with your kids, your spouse, your parents, or whatever. Like sometimes we're not always nice, but we're real. But there's actually more productive ways to even have real relationships, so that we can still have healthy, productive, collaborative relationships without just rolling over or being silent. And I am so glad, Maria, that you brought that up, because I think, the talk about being nice and how that's not effective in business. You're right. It's not effective in business, because if you're doing those things, you're not actually moving things forward. You're not making the changes needed, or having difficult conversations with people about things that, like, you might perceive things from one perspective, they perceive it from another. And it's actually the combination of your perspectives which will unlock a new idea or new combination that's actually more powerful than you guys were individually. But if somebody just is always rolling over and being nice, nothing actually gets done. It's just, and plus you get a lot of pent up resentment and other garbage that you don't want in your life. You don't need it. You don't want it. And I spent a lot of my career trying to figure out how not to be nice. And people tell me, they say, "Oh, you're such a nice guy." I said, "Don't ever insult me like that. You know, I'm not a nice guy at all, right? I want to be a authentic person with you. I might be kind. I might even be gentle at times, but I'm also tough, and I'm also, focused. I'm very goal oriented. Like, those are all me. That's okay. I can bring that with me to the conversation, and I can appreciate also, hey, maybe you're an introvert, I'm an extrovert. Like, I can appreciate that. I had a conversation with Lisa, my chief HR officer, before she hired me, and one of the conversations I said was, Lisa, you're an extreme introvert and I'm an extreme extrovert. I'm literally off the charts. There is not a number for me to represent my level of extroversion. I am on the outer edge. I don't know where you sit on introversion, but I can read that you're an introvert, and you've even said it so. I said, can we make this work? And she laughed. She goes, Jeff, I've had to work with all sorts of people my entire career. Of course we can make this work. She goes, there's 2 rules. One, I'll respect the fact that you're an extrovert and understand and give you grace for that. But there's sometimes where you're going to have to modify your behavior to be able to fit within the zone, within the parameters that I set. And I said, I can do that. I can alter my extroversion and I can tone it down in different situations. I'm very situational. I can modify. I said, but I can't change who I am. I can modify given the exam. What an honest conversation we were able to have, because I just happened in the moment to be brave enough to have said that in the interview process. And I was very grateful for that, because that actually came up later in our as we had our conversations in our relationship. That conversation was revisited many times to say, okay, I know you're an extrovert, but I need you to show up like this. Yeah, I can do that. I got it.
With people, and you make a good point, there's style and there's substance.
Right.
Right? People can confuse your style with your substance, because at work, I was always a quiet, not quiet like not talking, but I was always calming. I was never raising my voice. I never created a scene in front of anybody with anybody. And, at the same time, I had purpose. I had reason for being. So I was there to support, to serve them in a way, but they had to all understand what I wanted to accomplish, and I needed them for me as well as they needed me for them. And to every word that we bring up, there's semantics. Nice to one person is mean to somebody else, right? Kind has generous. All these things have different meanings. I think the underlying benefit is consistency. The worst person to work for or have work for you is when they were up yesterday and down today, right? They're like, they're so inconsistent. And you know what happens? No one respects them because no one believes it's going to last, right? Today's policy. Well, and then you see the person who made the policy not following it. How sick is that? It was their policy. Nobody liked it but them. And meanwhile, it doesn't apply to them. So, fairness has a lot to do with everything. And if you measure things by fairness over time, give somebody some room, give somebody the time. But to Jeff's point, hey, I just got to, if we're going to be on a team and we're going to be sharing our thoughts and ideas and some really great innovations, I got to tell you where I am right now. And that alone tells you, are they going to take the time to listen, and how are they going to listen? And if they don't, well, then you don't have the relationship you thought you had. And at a certain point, how do you bend without breaking? And then how do you stay true to yourself at the same time? Because I agree, sometimes, somebody throws down the gauntlet and you say, okay, we got 2 months to do this and we got to get it done, right? And then everything else goes out the window. This is number one priority.
Right.
Well, that's a whole different position, and we got a year to take care of that water fountain problem we got. And we'll put it on the list, and I'm sure it'll get done. And I think the other thing is too many people get stressed out at work
Mm.
unnecessarily. I know there's overwhelming amounts of work, and there's so much you got to learn so much faster today, and how you got to be so reflective and responsive. But I see people making people stay 3 hours after work, standing outside their door waiting to see them. The work day ended at 5, and someone, before you leave, I need to see you, right? And there's a line. And then when they see you, oh geez, I forgot I got to be somewhere. And they don't even look at that because I think so many people came in entitled.
Yeah.
The ones that had to scratch and grind to get little bits of nothing never forget those moments. Never forget what it was to be rejected, declined, terminated, whatever you want, whatever experience. And that is huge to people. And I think bad bosses usually came from bad bosses. That's how they got brought up. And it was a different time, a different place. I mean, it wasn't all the rights and responsibilities people had to deal with. And in some ways, it was a better place, right? Because, people had to earn their way. And people had to take responsibility and accountability. They can't just hide behind an umbrella. And today's world, all of that's disappeared. You're working for yourself no matter who's writing a check. And anything that can help you can also hurt you if you stay too long. So if you're in a bad, toxic work environment, especially if you're younger and impressionable, all of a sudden it starts squeezing out the life juice of you and giving you a transfusion of something else. And I always say people are like elevator buttons. Some take you up, some take you down. The measure is, how did I feel leaving this person in relationship to confronting this person? And it's like every time I'm with that person, I feel awful when I leave them, or they make me feel awful, or they go out of their way, to push my buttons because, there's a point of, are you controlling people or collaborating with people? And you're never going to duplicate and scale if you're in that control mode. Jeff, you've been in so many employment situations, personal, professional situations. What was a element that made you more resilient and being able to tolerate more experience as you went?
Humor. Because you have to see the irony in ridiculous situations, and getting a little joy out of stupidity. Because like people say and do, like, you just got to step back from meetings every so often and actually just take them in for what they are and just watch and just observe. Like, stop being quite so invested in the meeting in the moment and just actually just take it in. And like, you'll see things like whenever you I have a sixth sense of enjoyment when people attack me, because like that is going to be so much fun for me in that moment, right? Because I'm going to have the time of my life, because I'm going to apply a whole bunch of little judo moves that's going to reflect back exactly what they just said to me, and they are going to be tied in a little pretzel by the time they're done. And I can't wait for that, because they are, and hopefully they will learn something from it. Like, this was not a good approach. You came to somebody who was trying to be collaborative, and you wanted to basically destroy them. And I'm like, hey, yeah, come at me, please, because all that energy is going right back at you, right? And that's not the way I like to play. I like to play it like, and I'll give you an example. Like, we had to go through a lot of different things. I've had one of my bosses was actually sleeping with two of my subordinates. And I found that out within like 4 weeks of moving my whole family to that part of the country, where I was like still young, impressionable, and way over my head in terms of having 100 direct reports and no first line to worry about. Right? Like, I'm in a high stress environment, very young, no real experience leading that big of a team, and now I got this whacked out environment where I got my boss sleeping with, like like you're sitting there going, what in the world am I going to do with this? Right. I tried to have the conversation with him. Like, seriously, is this real? Is this like, I'm hearing this from others. Is this real? And he's like, hey, listen, my life, my personal life is my personal life. I'm like, okay, now I understand. Yeah, it is real. But now you basically are telling me mind my own business, which is feeling a little ironic right now, but that's okay because I feel like this is my business. And then and then I'm having all these, like, trying to figure this out. And Nick Wharton gave me the best advice. Nick was the head of recruiting diversity at where we were at the time. He's now his wife's a CHRO. He's a CEO of a large not-for-profit in Charlotte. Phenomenal guy. And he looked at me, and he and I just talk about this and laugh. He goes, Jeff, sometimes you got to care, just not that much. Right? I was getting myself all bombed up in a ball of twine, like I was all wrapped up tight. I couldn't get myself out of it. Like I wasn't able to step away from the situation and go, okay, my boss has a real problem. Either he's got a sexual addiction or something, and that's bizarre. Okay, that's just bizarre. And yeah, he's going to have some influence and want these two people that are on my team to get special treatment, and I'm not really inclined to provide special treatment just because they're the boss's pet. But I've still got to find a way to not create myself more problems than I need. Okay, that's not going to be insurmountable. But honestly, I've got the higher ground opportunity here. I can do the right things, and I actually used my admin at the time. Really was a huge sounding board. She was my source of confidential, like, conversations, and I'd have venting, and she'd provide me with a lot of good advice, calming advice in that moment to say, okay, I'm hearing you. You're absolutely right. That's a bunch of BS. And so what are you going to do about it? I said, no, I'm not going to. This is one, I'm going to do this about it. Even though I feel like doing that, that's not the smart move. The smart move is for me to do this. Yeah, that's a good idea. That's the right. She goes up, very, like, you got to have to, like, as you work through these situations, you have to leverage other people and you pull them into what you're going through to some extent, because sometimes you can't see yourself out of it because you are too emotionally invested. I certainly was, and I was young, impressionable. Now, after having been through as much as I have, like, most of it is just funny to me. But back then it was very serious, life and death. My whole family is riding on these decisions, and they felt very, very crushing. That's how they felt in the moment. Crushing is the best description.
Well, I think looking back at my career, there were situations that took years to work through because of positioning, because of strength, influence. You knew how far you could push something, and then you're starting to push yourself.
Yes.
Right? So you say, okay, now I understand. Now I know who I'm dealing with. Now I know how I've got to deal with it. And you do have to be somebody you don't always want to be. And that's part of being a better person, where you're just absorbing a lot and you're not giving anything back yet. And there is some quiet victory. After 8 years, I finally got rid of that person. That finally did happen. But for 8 years, they were always like, boy, this person is getting in my way, or they're making things hard for the company. And that's where I think a lot of it is. Not everything is black and white. If it was, it'd be easy. If somebody was just an awful everything, they'd be gone tomorrow. But they got enough redeeming factors. They got enough influence with the people who you need to have influence with. And if you decide I'm going against them, you might be the one out the door. And plus, it's like, okay, now I know, there's so many people who go out of their way to build weakness underneath them to support them. right? Don't hire someone really great; they'll get your job, right? Or they'll know more than you, you know. And that's where I think entrepreneurship, solopreneurship makes so much difference because, hey, it's every dollar out of your pocket, it's every dollar back into your pocket. How much tolerance do you have? And how many times in a corporate situation, even though I was always an entrepreneur, everybody dealt with the corporate people, sales reps, national sales managers, CEOs, fly in, go to lunch, go to dinner, whatever the case. And I knew, hey, I'm just doing what's right. They're doing what's politically right. They're doing what's bureaucratically right. They're doing what they're going to get their options this year redeemed, or they're going to get their bonus. So, everything lent itself more to short term than long term. Christine says, well, I think, did I cover this? I had a boss to use company money to take trips with his mistress who worked for the company. Then he messed with P&L statements and tried to scapegoat me. Fun times. I'll tell you one thing. I had a gentleman in the 80s, I raised some money and had a board of directors. And one of the directors was a professor at Boston University who was also the CFO at B. Dalton Bookstores at the time, which was a pretty big chain. Was in every mall. And, he was so instrumental with explaining things to me because he was, I was in my 30s, he was in his 50s, but he shared so many ideas that I got to learn through his experience. Right. I mean, and just like Jeff's saying, he's pretty seasoned and experienced. Someone who meets up with him who's in their 30s, just starting to climb the ladder, would be, best served to reach out to people like that, to become part of these communities. I mean, everybody brings some value because getting back to Christine and her finishing thing was P.S. I did win that fight because another person discovered what was happening and advocated on my behalf. I go to witness him being escorted out eventually. And, that's kind of hard for a company to put up with something or somebody and not think it's going to impact the people around them, right? Because how many times did I have to terminate somebody? And the whole sales staff would say, man, we've been waiting for that for a long time, or we were wondering what took you so long. And then you'd hear all these stories that you never heard when they were here. And I'm like, well, if you would have shared these things with me and shared how you felt, because it's one thing to be false to someone else, it's another thing collectively be false.
Right. So let me give you a rest of the story from mine. The person didn't get escorted out. They didn't get fired. None of that stuff happened. I was disappointed that I had to work in this environment. But something? Sometimes you figure things out and I think you've made a good point. Most people aren't all bad or all good. Because he was doing that bad, terrible thing doesn't mean he's all bad. He actually was very brilliant. He's very smart, very, very clever, wasn't the best boss, but was a very expansive thinker, very big growth mindset, like come up with ideas. And we actually did things within that environment, in part because he would allow them to happen. Things that people couldn't imagine, couldn't have ever even. Most people would just thrown them out, right? But he didn't just throw them out or adopt them. He actually embraced them and owned them, right? And actually created things that were like we won awards and we did things as a team and a unit that other people still talk about today. And this is going on, 20 plus years, right? So as you think about these things, like the way I put it is, I don't always throw the baby out with the bathwater anymore. I used to kind of lump everybody. They're either good or they're bad. They're either evil or they're good or whatever. Like I try not to do that. I take the individual pieces of their behavior and I say that is horrible and really needs to be addressed, right? and we need to take that on. But there's other stuff about I think you said there may have other redeeming values. Like sometimes, I've had people on my team. They like, oh, you need to blah 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 with so and so, and I'm like, what is it that annoys you about them? What are you so angry? And they talk about the one behavior, one thing. I say, would it be okay if I just talk to them about that behavior? And how about if it's really serious, maybe the three of us chat about it, like how it's impacting you? And is there a way that we can, like, if we fix that behavior, would everything else be okay? Yeah, they're brilliant otherwise. Well, you just tell me to fire them, right? Right? Because they annoyed you to no end because of this one thing. But what if we address that one thing, fix it, and then the person is salvaged, the relationship is salvaged. And let me tell you, this is from a recruiter, right? There is no perfect hire out there. There is no perfect employee. There's no perfect boss. Just get that out of your head. They don't exist. If they do exist, do not hire them, because there's something wrong with them that's probably very serious and corrupt. That's so deep that they are sociopathic or psychotic or something like that, that they are a dangerous individual if they come across as absolutely perfect. Real perfect people don't exist in this world, and don't expect it out of folks. So that's my advice. If you run across a perfect person, run, don't walk.
Well, and what brings to mind that to me is fundamental is trust. And if a guy's cheating on his relationship, if the guy's taking money from the company that's not authorized, so where is the end of the cheating? And why would you ever think you're going to be the one who is the beneficiary of honesty and integrity? Because most people say, don't worry about it, make it up. But they're the ones who are weighing the scales.
Yes.
To say, yeah, I know I'm short here, I'll pick it up here. It's like, not everything's the same. If you hit one person and you reward 99, that one person you hit is a game changer. And why couldn't someone reach in their pocket and pay their own hotel bills? Why couldn't someone take care of whatever it was? And it's almost like in your face then.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, and then how smart was this person in confidentiality? And also, you can go on and on. What did he do to these other two people that he was having a relationship? What's going to happen to their career? And not only that, what's going to happen to their reputation? Oh, those two are here only because of him, and only because of a reason for being. And to me, it's like, hey, this is too much of a circus. I used to, people couldn't believe it. But I had no issue hiring my best salesperson. There could have been a person generating 40% of the revenue. But if they were a jerk and they weren't respectful, it was like, who is this guy or gal? And they couldn't believe it. Like, I'm making you so much money. I say, yeah, but you're creating so much stress for so many people, and you didn't have to do it. You're the salesperson. You know how to sell. How come you're not selling here? How come not selling yourself around the people here? Is this what you're selling? Put up with me? Because you can't,
go ahead.
until you say, hey, here's where the line stops, and at a certain point, you don't have to. I always say, everybody, I prefer not to be friends with me, but you have to be friendly. Right? And I don't have to be friends with you. I don't have to align or identify with anything you do outside of work. But when we're together, this is the way I prefer it to be. But at the same time, like Jeff says, I'm not 100%. I used to always beg the people, be as forgiving to me as I am to you. That's all I ask. It's my company even, right? I take the hit. But when I make a mistake, ask yourself how you would want to be treated. And I think people then have compassion. And I think compassion and empathy with people is so important, because there is no lowly person in your organization. Without the truck driver, nothing gets delivered. Without the person who's at the counter taking in the money, nothing gets in the bank. Everything is instrumental and, to the overall group. And plus, there's people who can't be measured by responsibility or title. Some people are just the kindest, nicest, wonderful people. in the organization, and they never cause trouble, and they're always positive. And the thing is, there's no fault with not being overambitious. There's no fault for being satisfied. How many people have turned down promotions and they were smart? Hey, I just like selling. I don't want to be a sales manager. I don't want to sit in an office. I like the road. Whatever it is. Betty's here. Great to see you, Betty. Run like your pants are on fire, for sure. And I think the fun is having the fun, the learning of it. Sometimes you gotta get to yourself and say, I can't believe this is happening. I mean, this is like from out of the blue, and you have to laugh. I mean, it might be the worst thing that ever happened, but this is like 1 in 10 million.
Right.
And tomorrow we still have to move. We still have to move on. We still have to live. So with that said, we're at top of hour. Thank you so much for everybody who came here today, especially the ones who really carried the conversation. It just shows you can go from one platform to another, and I'm sure the audience was primarily the same, but the point is you made it happen for us as well as us making it happen for all of us. So come back tomorrow if you can. Tomorrow is, let me see, I'll just share real quick so that if we look at Catherine Chadwick and Debbie Clements, our wonderful butterfly lady, is going to be here. On Sunday, we've got Leslie. And then on Monday, we got a great treat. We got Lisa Goldenthal with Kelly again and Beverly. And then Carl Dakin, a VC here in Denver, is going to be here on Wednesday and be a regular. So a lot going on. Thank you so much for making it happen. Thank you, Jeff, for being such a stellar guest again. And we'll talk tomorrow if we can. Take care. Bye for now.